Good morning, it's the 30th of December 2024, sex assault. It's cold out there, it's dry enough, the ground is very wet, it's breezy and blustery, and I wouldn't be surprised if you wouldn't have an odd shower. I was just watching a few videos there. I did the one there on America, and in the south of America, like the heat, the blistering heat, and to think that people have to get out of there due to poverty and no jobs and such a lovely climate. Like, it must be beautiful there with the heat. And I would like warmth. I like the climate in Italy and in America. We are a cold, damp climate in Ireland, and well, sure, there's nothing we can do about it. But when the weather gets good, it's not too bad. We often have poor weather here up to the month of May. Bad old weather. You get the same in Scandinavia, Denmark, and all those countries. They're all a bit like that, tell you the truth. Anyway, that's another day's work. Now, I'm going to deal here with the sex assault case, and I understand my viewership has gone up to 7,220. I make it there. 7.22. Yeah, that'd be 7,220. And that's good. So I must be doing something right. Now, of course, if I had a channel which was ordinary, and if I were ordinary, there'd be no one looking at it. No one's going to look at an ordinary fella tell you, oh no, you want to watch what you're doing now, and you want to do this and you want to do that, and see that your tires is pumped up to the right amount, and watch what you're at now, and don't be doing this and that. Like, if I was like that, nobody'd look. The reason my channel is successful enough is that I'm different. I am different. I have a different way of looking at life, and it should become obvious now to that in that way. I used to tell them on the chat rooms that I was the second most intelligent person in Ireland. And that used to drive them nuts, and I got so much fun out of that, because self-praise is no praise, and when you indulge in it, everyone's down in your cart, and then if you have some bit of smart aleck stuff or something, they're really, really knocked out. So it's all about knocking people out of their way of thinking and getting them to think differently. I don't know have anyone actually thought differently since watching my videos, but the thing about it is, if something's real, even though it mightn't be such a funny joke or something, if it happened, it's funnier, in my opinion, than something made up. A joke that's just made up, like, is it really much at all? It's just some artist thought it up. Whereas if something actually happened, and you knew the characters, it can be very, very, very funny. Anyway, we're going to deal with this sex assault case here. And it's real, but I can't divulge anything else. So we're going to go through the questions. And then I think when I'm done here, if all goes well, and maybe my phone will ring, you wouldn't know. If all goes well, I will give the answer and be done with it. We can't hang around. So, free spirit, brilliant way of explaining it. Yeah, I would suggest that I have a reasonably good power of explanation. Some said it made a good teacher or professor. Don't know. Anyway, one of the things about my ways of explaining, I'm big into mechanical engineering and general engineering, electrical engineering. I just have a bent for that, and painting pictures and all that. So I'm big into that. And I bought so many books on these subjects that didn't tell me how to do it. Using big words, and you still didn't find out what you wanted to know. I remember one time buying a book on metalwork, and it was by a man who lost his sight, an American, and he could hardly spin two words together, but I could understand precisely what he was saying. So there's no point in explaining something if nobody understands what you're talking about. Now, Kingsley Gallagher says, fascinating case, and now, there was one there connecting it to a current case of alleged rape and all that. I can't do that. I have to say that my video has no connection with any person now known. No current sex assault case or trial. It's a long, long time ago. I don't even know are the people still alive. So it's not connected with any of them. And I have deleted references to individuals involved in high-profile cases because it's not connected with them. You can draw your own inferences from it. And I might do a video on individual cases, but I want this to stand on its own. So now this man here at J236, I suspect you would have spoken to Lucy following Tommy's denial, informing her that he supplied a blood sample. I would have spoken to Lucy about Tommy's denial and have said he denies this emphatically. He says this is not true. And her response was, it is true. But I didn't tell her he gave a blood sample. Tommy's lawyer, Tommy was the suspect, Tommy's lawyer knew he gave a sample against his advice. I pulled a confidence trick to get it taken before the solicitor got talking to him. Not illegal, but good police practice in my opinion, because my job is to get at the truth. It's not to make the careers of lawyers or anything else. So I wouldn't have told her he gave a blood sample, because why would I tell her that? It's up to her to tell the truth. She was making a serious allegation. It's her business to tell the truth. It's not my business to tell the truth. And when I was a detective, we'd be taking in people to quiz them about different things, bits of crimes, some but petty enough, And I always had to brief my investigators. Your job is to get the information from them. It's not the guard's job or the policeman's job to give them information. You'd only give the suspect enough information to glean what you wanted to get from him. But you could get situations where police officers who are not too good at the job would have the whole information going to them and nothing coming back. Now, so I have to watch the screen here for WhatsApp coming in messages, because I am a farmer in the end of the day. So that's all right. Now, so I didn't tell her anything except I wanted her to tell me the truth, and I put her over the whole. One of the things about investigating sexual assaults, you have to get deep down, and that's in the book Manual of Criminal Investigations Techniques. And the Gardaí have a book called the Manual of Criminal Investigations Techniques. It's issued free, and it is an excellent publication. I could read it back to front. I'd say I was one of the few guards ever read it. I read it. When you go up for interview for promotion, they wouldn't tell you. They tell you that's your job. The whole thing was rigged towards their friends when it comes to promotion. So you'd often have to deal with an officer over you, but that would be trying to tell you what to do. I used to tell them, your job is to get out. I put the supers out sometimes. And there was a murder case where a body was found down the west, and this big ignorant super come plodding in, and he wanted to look. And lucky enough, there was a sergeant on the scene and told him, sir, you are not allowed in there. What do you mean? I'm the superintendent. You get out there. You're not coming in here. You see, if it went to the point, the sergeant would have won, because you can't let contamination of the scene. So I was a bit like that, but I was a senior detective, whereas most young guards and young sergeants wouldn't do that. The result is the judge was left with bad evidence, and that's where I came in. There was good evidence. Anyway, we'll go on with it. If she was making up the story, she would possibly realise she was in trouble in the SHI, thing. My guess is the investigation changed course and Lucy was charged with making a false report against Tommy. Happy New Year Happy New Year, Sherlock, is Dennis Byrne. Dennis Byrne, Sherlock Holmes. There was no such thing as Sherlock Holmes. I read a hunting book from America, and they were telling about all the weapons that Sherlock Holmes had. He didn't even exist. There might have been a 221 Baker Street, but there was no Sherlock Holmes. That's a figment of the imagination. You see, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, I think that's it. There's a video of him actually on television. Anyway, so another man here, Chris, says it was the butler. See, we have to have a bit of crack. We have to have a bit of laugh. DNA will prove it. It's 1,000,000 to 1. Oh, if there was DNA, yeah. Oh, it's airtight, yeah. I think it was Abel. My life expectancy is running out. Vincent Conley. She lied to get him out of the picture. This is Paul Newman. Get him out of the picture for good, so she could carry on with the new fella, a cold-hearted woman. Sally Carr, if it was Maliki, the new man on the scene, who had raped her, surely she would have said so. Good. Think about this now, members of the jury. So apart from the body fluids, there that were not hers, that were found on her clothes. Was there any other evidence that she was raped? Now, one of the things to remember here, if Maliki, the new boyfriend, had raped her, there would be body fluids, surely, probably. But that wouldn't exonerate Tommy, the suspect. The two could have had sex with her. It was a complication. It's a very good point made there by Sally Carroll there. By Sally Carroll. Sorry, I have to turn down a thing here. Sorry, I had to go and deal with a matter there. A machine that was running, I had to turn it off. And I left my glasses somewhere. And I have these ones, there's one leg on them. Sorry, it'll not matter anymore. No, so, just to get back now to the case. So her clothes, there was evidence that she was raped. Now, if the fluids was not hers, there was evidence she was raped. So it possibly that she was unaware that forensics would prove new evidence and real perpetrator who in the rape case. So I am thinking, oh God, it's gone off. Wait a second now. Now, so I am thinking that she was unaware of this, that she and Maliki had engaged in consensual sexual relations that night. Read more. Now, what do we read a bit more? At night, Maliki went home. Tommy, the old boyfriend, came in. I can't remember whether he beat her or not. She did allege force. She didn't say he hammered her that way, but he forcibly had sex with her because he was vexed that she was with another man. Right. Can't remember whether he beat her or not, but she was angry with him, so she decided to get him in real trouble and accused him of rape. Maliki did not give a sample. Aye, that's the second fella. Well, you must remember, Maliki was just a bystander, really. Right, so if a woman over there makes an allegation of a serious crime, and there's 20 men in the area, all of them are just bystanders, really. They're not suspects. She didn't allege he did it. And if he had sex with her, it would be consensual. She didn't allege any non-consensual activity. So he really was a bystander. And at that time, and even yet, he couldn't be compelled to give a specimen. In fact, he was entitled to claim his right to silence and say, I want nothing to do with this. I'm having absolutely nothing to do with it. I went home with the woman all right, surely, and we had a cup of tea and a bit of chat, and I gave her a peck on the cheek and I left. Now, don't build too much into me saying he got a taxi, because I can't really remember how he got in and out, how any of them got in and out. I think it was taxis that night. There'd be a lot of taxis around and all that, I presume. It would be a night there was a kind of a festival thing. In Ireland, you often get that. You could have a festival that happened a lot during the summer. That's all I can say. And I have to be very careful now that I don't identify any place, right? So Maliki did not give a sample not because he was guilty of rape, but because he knew they had consensual relations that night. And he did not want to be accused of rape. What was to stop her saying Maliki done it? The new boyfriend. I could be completely and totally wrong, but that was very interesting, Val. Thanks. I'm going to pass it on to a few more people and see if they want to take a shot at it. And this is the problem now I have. I don't like to leave this too long. I don't want to leave it too long because it'll go off the boil, I'd like to tell people the answer. We wait another little while, all right, but there's nothing stopping Sally Carroll 6329 to tell them not to look at the answer to it. Now the next comment is by Kieran O'Sullivan. I'd be asking Lucy, did she know Tommy gave a blood sample and what it could prove? I'd assume her and Maliki had sex, and sometime before he leaves her place, Tommy turns up peeping in the window. That's generally what happened. That is my memory of it. After Maliki leaves, Tommy arrives into her and makes a fuss about a bit of arguing and whatever. Yeah, and he still had a bit of romance in his head. You know, he still had a wee bit of a romantic notion there. He liked her, like, you know, he was missing her. She was a good woman enough in many ways, but that's the way it goes. She takes her chance and blames it on him to get him gone. Likely there was alcohol consumed at the festival to cause all three to act, which caused all three to act a bit. Yeah, there was drink on the job, certainly. I'd say all of them, out of the ordinary, and led to the whole thing. Definitely, but I don't think it was very much drink. It was reasonable amounts, I'd say. All of them probably not drunk as such. When you say at 28 that the sample was brought to the lab in a squad car and 2 Gardaí and nobody could say it was interfered with, I wonder how secure and reliable is the forensic system, especially now. Maybe not so much back then in this case happened. It is amenable to scrutiny. Well, if you take a blood sample, if a guard takes a blood sample for drink driving, it's posted by registered post. However, if it's properly sealed and done up and signed, and 2 guards from the station are selected to bring it up, it's better. In a case of a murder or a very serious crime, I would not send it by post. Too risky. I sold cattle in Carnaross. I sold a bullock out in Carnaross and I got a London price. He was a Belgian blue. I got $14.40 for him and he was only 11 months old. He was a lovely animal. A wee bull. And no one believed me. And I never got the letter for the cheque for over 7 weeks. I couldn't prove I got the price. And then eventually came. It was 7 weeks missing, going and missing. The post is all right, but I certainly would not post important material. I'd deliver it, particularly in the Gardaí where you have patrol cars. I mean, there's not a big problem in a station when there's a slack period getting a guard, the driver, giving him a detective car. He could be a uniform guard and letting him up. And if there's someone working with him, let him on up to Dublin. Ring up, the sample's going up there. Well, I mean, you could say they could interfere with it. Could be interfered with before it's posted. No, you have to make a statement to say you sealed it, you put it in there. And the whole thing I always used to be afraid of was cross-contamination. So we're very, very careful that way. Even the most corrupt guards would have trouble fixing up that. I mean, the doctor does the sample and signs the 2. You give one of the samples to the suspect. Now, so I don't think there's any problem there. Val, who done it? Stephen Walsh says no. Stephen, why did you? Stephen Walsh, 8144. Oh, he gave me 4 thumbs up. Oh, I misunderstood. Very, very sorry. Very, very sorry. Give me 4 thumbs up. Did the other fella give a sample? What were the results of hers? Now, her sample, it probably would be normal to take a sample of her blood. Why? It's for elimination. So if there was anything found so that could be said that's hers. Her sampling on her clothes was irrelevant. If she bled a little and there was a bit of blood, it just proved that there was blood or whatever. So I probably would say she may have given a sample, but normally there'd be no problem getting a sample afterwards. A rape victim, you mightn't put them through all that in a genuine case. They'll always usually give you the what you want. I mean, it's not a big problem. So I can't say, but I think maybe she did give a sample. But yeah, you'd have to prove whatever was found wasn't hers. I think that's what probably happened there. You know something? I'm a wee bit foggy on that. But her own boyfriend did not give a sample. He was, as I said, just a bystander. There was no obligation on him. He said, I want nothing to do with this. I just left her up. How can I get involved in that? You know, what do? You can't arrest him under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act and keep him because he has to be suspected of a crime. There has to be a power of arrest. There was no suspicion against him. And even he did have sex with her, well, it was consensual. She wasn't alleging anything. He had no case. Now, Val, 2910, I'll log off now and see what replies you provide to our investigation later in the morning. Sure, yeah. That's appalling, Paul. Yeah, that's okay. Now, all right, that's all right. Where do we go on out of here? I see a Paul comes up again. The name of the blue solicitor provides us with a curious insight of the relationship between prosecution and Gardaí, defending solicitors, especially when a suspect has been caught red-handed. The situation with this solicitor was, you'll give no statement, you'll keep your right to silence, you'll give no sample, nothing. You don't cooperate at all. That's the general approach of solicitors and lawyers brought in to people in custody. And they have to be spoken to here, and it's on camera. So everything you say during an interview is recorded. And I remember in December, the officers of the guards would have a few bob left over. They'd be saving up their money for anything that unexpected, and there'd be a bit left over, and they'd get me and go out and solve a few old crimes. People breaking into houses and police houses, and old tyres being taken and things like that. And we'd bring in some lads we'd know would be up at this, and I'd tell them, you know, there might be a big crime in the paper. There might have been a church burnt down in Turindonny or somewhere, and we showed to him in the paper, you did this. I did not. How dare you accuse me of that? And then, but you broke into the priest's house. Oh, I may have broken into the priest's house, but I didn't do that. You see, I had him admitting it. It was a confidence trick, really. But you couldn't do that once the camera came in. And it was never used. I'd never use anything got by trick in a prosecution. This was to get the general run. Could we get him to admit something that he did? But you had to be sure he did it. I never prosecuted anyone that didn't do it. But I have known one or two rare cases where other guards far away had people prosecuted for things they didn't do, and I actually caught the real culprits. And it was very rare. I think it only happened to me once, maybe twice in me time. And there's a thing called case stealing, where if you had a good case in the guard, somebody'd rob it off you. Anyway, now I hope I've answered that. That's the general rule of solicitors, and sometimes it's wrong, because if you take a lad accused of rape and he didn't do it, this guy spoke to me and he said, you know something, I didn't do it. I was up there and I was messing around. I didn't do it. I really didn't do it. And I looked into his eyes, and I bloody well know if a fella's lying to me or not. And I became very, very aware, serious about it. A lot of modern guards would say, oh, we do the job, you know. You have to have a wee bit of tact. And I've come to the conclusion, whatever happened, that my lad was probably innocent. Seemed a bit funny, all right. Did he come to the window and he went round and he came in? Oh, that your man was gone, Malachy. And why was Malachy gone? Would he not be there? Would he not have intervened and tried to stop her being raped? Do you know what I mean? I'm explaining that, but you're getting it wrong there, Paul. Solicitors want to make money. They want to have a trial. They want to hire barristers to defend them on free legal aid. The least good evidence there is, the more they'll make in a trial before a jury. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't crooked solicitors, and I have time to deal with them. And I used to play puck with them because they were professional people, and sometimes there'd be big barristers, big fellas. And once they were on the case, now if it was a genuine case, you know, sad case, maybe somebody died, I wouldn't play around really. But if it was some lad robbing or stealing or something, not like, or fraud cases especially, I'd play puck with the big lawyers, because they'd say, no, Sergeant, you know very well. I'd say, well, now you look at it this way, and I'd wind them up in knots, because it'd be a battle of wits. What they'd do with you when they get you in the witness box, to tell you, now you're a very experienced guard. Oh, you're well known for your craft. You're very, very crafty. You're a real expert at this, you see. Once you heard a barrister saying that to you, he had the knife ready and he was going to come with the next sentence. If you agreed, he'd say, and yet you didn't do such a thing. Do you know what I mean? Yet you didn't even fill it in the form. So you never answered that. You always said in the witness box, well, that's your opinion. No one ever told that to me. I used to say, I wish my chief superintendent would agree with that. I'd get promoted. Blow him out of the water. Okay, now you see where I'm coming on. Anyway, now go on here now. We're entitled to ask, how about Malachy's sample? I've explained that now to you. Methinks Lucy is lying. That's Sheila Clark. Sheila Clark, please don't laugh at me, glasses. I'm after leaving them down somewhere there, down where I was doing the job. I had to go. Methinks Lucy is lying. Now, Danny Harty, you know, Val, I always thought you were some way involved with the law. You know so much about the law. just to be any Joe Soap anyway, good video, and keep it going. Well, one of the areas that I'm good in law, because law is a mechanical thing, is civil law. I am much more fascinated by civil law than I am by criminal law. Criminal law is basically quite straightforward. I mean, you see me giving out about the Hate Speech Act. That act wouldn't be made before 8 or 9 years ago. This is Mickey Mouse, Roderick O'Gorman, gobbledygook, where a person can say, well, I have a gender the same as a hare out in the field, you know, and that's my gender. I'm a female hare and he could be a man. And you insult the hare, you're insulting me, and you go to jail. I mean, this is massively bad law. But the law has been, the common law of England is forged on the anvil of reality, as to say. And it's no harm to know it. I mean, I've done videos there on contract law and all of that. And so I need to know that, because then I do environmental law. I took 3 High Court cases against windmills. And no, 2 windmills and 1 the pylons. And I had 6 or 7 barristers breathing down my neck. But my problem was I couldn't write fast enough, and I couldn't keep, they were roaring so fast I couldn't keep up with it. But I did very well. So I mean, the civil law on has nothing to do with the criminal law. Nothing to do with the criminal law. A lot of criminals plead guilty and there's very little to it. So I don't know. I don't think I'd have went through life without studying law. And I did my course in business studies. I was in my last few years in the Guards. I think I'd have studied it anyway. And I like to use it to fight corruption. So I don't see how you can live a useful life without knowing the law. I don't know. I know it fairly well. I've fixed a few people with it, I'll tell you, but I don't do it with a good reason now. So Malachy left. This is Michael Curtin. Malachy left for home after the festival by taxi to a rural house, and then, like a true gentleman, offered home a Sunday work beckoning. And the old flame lands to vent his anger, and possibly either threatened her or compromised her name. To protect himself, she blames him. Many possibilities. Yeah. It's a wee bit garbled. Look, it's not easy to get perfect. Now, Vincent Conley, do you have one question? Do you think this will play like a Coronation Street? If so, don't have the time. Well, this is the thing. Well, sure, look, if you don't have the time, Vincent, sure, give it a miss. Gerard O'Sullivan, did you solve all your cases with empty tubes and bottles? CSI style. Well, what is he on about? Did you solve all your cases with empty tubes and bottles? I can't answer that because it's garbage. Remember that DNA only came in shortly around this time. DNA is only about 1994. Before that, there was blood grouping, and there was about 5 blood types, and there was a lot of people duplicated. All you could do with a blood sample before that was that if he was type A and a sample was type B, then it couldn't be him. It was fairly good evidence, but nothing like DNA. Nothing like DNA. Are you with me now? Blood grouping wasn't great. Blood grouping is used a lot in affiliation cases for proving who's the father of a child. But it doesn't prove it. It just means it's a test the courts would ask, because if it's done, at least it rules out the possibility maybe that it narrows down the number of people who could be the suspect, you know what I mean, or who could be the one who it applies to. So blood grouping is nothing like DNA. James could have been the toothbrush. Sure, look at what do we do? Sure, why do people bother? Sure, can't you turn off? Why do you put us to this trouble? If you don't like the video, sure, go on and look at something else. Now, this is Frankie Vaughan. What about the suspect Ian Bailey and Sophie Duplantier murder case? I did several videos on Ian Bailey. Why do we have to go back there? I did all this, done and dusted. I don't boil my cabbage twice. Tuan, I think it could have been the old boyfriend. He could have been jealous. He was jealous of another man coming. He was jealous. I'm very interested in police detective work and watch a lot of true crime videos. I couldn't look at a detective video. You'd want to pay me at least 6,000 for an hour. This is a difficult case. If I am doing jury service on this, I definitely would say it was him. That's Tommy, the suspect. Wasn't it him who refused to give the sample? No, now get this clear. Well, to see someone replied to this. No, get this clear. Oh, we're on 30 minutes. Oh my God. Wait, it'll probably run out. If it runs out, I'll run this anyway. I might run out of time here. No, the old boyfriend is Tommy, and he gave a blood sample. So Sally Cardle's coming on there with that. Yes, the old boyfriend was accused, and he gave the blood sample. The new boyfriend didn't have to give anything, and said, I want nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with me. I had no sex with her. I just left her up to the house, and I think we had a cup of tea or whatever. That's it. I want nothing to do with this crap. But if I'm forced her, he probably could be summoned to say he left her up. I think he did make a statement. You know, you're pushing me on this now. I think he did make a statement to say that he met her in the town, he knew her, they had a bit of crack, they had a few drinks, she invited him out to the house for tea, and he went out for a cup of tea, and they did not have any sexual relationships, and he left. I'm nearly sure that he went that far. Would he give a blood? Well, you see, the blood sample could have came in later. It could have went on as the investigation went on. Supposing there had been found two substances. She'd have probably given a sample, all right. So supposing there was male fluid found. Number one, it couldn't be hers, but they'd have checked her blood type, and okay, her DNA, she's ruled out, it wasn't hers. So therefore it was a man. Now, the next thing is, was it Tommy, the suspect? We don't know, but he gave a sample. At this stage, we had no result. Now, the thing, that was on the way off up to Dublin, no problem there. The next thing was, it could have been that the new boyfriend would have been asked to give a specimen. But there was no need, in my opinion, to get anything from him until we got the result back from Tommy. Because if it turned out that it wasn't Tommy, and then we went up to him to get a specimen, all that proved was that they had sex. So there was lies being told, all right, and that could come into it, but it didn't prove rape because she hadn't alleged rape. Does that answer that? Now, Pauling Paul comes back again. Answers for Act 1. Well, you would have 3 statements. Oh, yeah, true. So you would have compared the men's accounts with Lucy's. There would have been some little bells ringing. Oh, there were bells ringing. The thing that was ringing with me was my assessment of the Tommy fella, the former husband and that suspect, and named, was that despite everything being against him, she had a reason to lie for him, to try and get him out of the picture. There was that to it, but that didn't mean much. There would have been bells ringing. We could probably do with more info here in relation to what Lucy actually said about the comings and goings. She said he came, she went home, brought the boyfriend home for a cuppa, had no sexual relationships, was just settling in. God knows how the night would have went when this guy arrived at the window. Oh my God, look at this fella, Tommy. Get out of here. And there was a discrepancy there. She said that the boyfriend was gone, that they had done whatever, they just had left her there, had a cup of tea or whatever, was gone. And that is a bell ringing there for a Paul. He wasn't there. If he was there, why didn't he intervene? He was gone. Now, in my head, that did ring a wee bit of an alarm bell. Okay? Now, so don't forget, I'm not trying to paint a real good novel here. I'm trying to tell you a natural thing while holding my glasses. We probably do with more here in relation to Lucy actually said about the comings and goings. We must also take account why Malachy didn't give more of a statement. Maybe that covered in Act 2. Yeah, well, you see, he did. He said he went up and he said goodbye to her, and this all, if he'd have known this fella was going to rape her, his friend that left him home, he'd have protected her. And then there's at J232 replies, what about the blood samples? Did Lucy provide hers? Didn't Tommy provide the sample? I think Lucy, yeah, I think she did. Yeah, she did. Well, you see, it wasn't strictly necessary because the question was whose was the seminal fluid? Whose was the male's fluid? If both samples were found together, it strengthens her story. If neither samples were joined, surely this damages Lucy's story. Just saying. Paul, but thank you. Medical forensics are very valid. Paul, they are very valid. If you get a sample of blood or semen or anything like that, or even hairs, I mean, it has changed. It's probably one of the reasons why there's less. I suspect there's less crime. I don't know. And fingerprints are deadly evidence. And one of the things that I did when I was in the Gardaí, I pointed out they used to do consultations, foot evidence. They weren't checking foot evidence. You can't walk anywhere. You have to put your foot down. And I remember one time there was a robbery in Cavan and someone stepped on the mirror and I brought the mirror up and we searched the house in Dublin. We got the gutty, the trainer, and the marks was identical. I remember showing it to the policewoman there. You could see where there was wee cuts on the sole and they matched the mirror. We solved the case. We caught them. The problem was when you catch them, they go to jail for a week and they'll be out again. Now, I think I've dealt with that fairly good. And I might do the result after this. I can't leave it forever. Just mull it round. Apply ordinary common sense to it. I think I've answered everything fairly good. And remember too, in traumatic situations, people have to be allowed a certain license. You know, you have to have a certain license to, in other words, they mightn't get it exactly right, you know. But one of the things about the investigation of sex assaults is the exact location. You go into it big time. Was there a sheet on the bed? Was it on the bed? Did you fall on the floor? Little things like that. Because if she's been raped and under stress, little things like that could matter. Where was the pillow? And you can get that out of a person, give them a cup of coffee and chat them. I normally wouldn't write it down, I'd talk to them and get that detail and you'd form an opinion whether they were lying or not. And this is a big problem with An Garda Síochána and British police and everything else. The policemen who think like that are not wanted. I'd nearly know that in the end, before I retired, I'd nearly know the smell of a crime. I'd nearly know who did it. Like, you'd have a great idea. The form just fell into a certain pattern. But the people who got promoted to high rank were those who had the most road traffic convictions. And then, of course, the officers will say, oh, that's very important, that saves lives. But you can't be a jack of all trades. If you're in the traffic unit, that's your job. You're not investigating crime. But is it right then that the traffic unit gets all the promotions and the guard that's good at the crime finds herself then with a new superintendent who hasn't a clue? And that's what happens all the time. There's no way of measuring craft or anything like that. They spend millions on education, but it's all basic. So it doesn't teach you how to think and how to interact with people. I can't say any more than that. That's a long video. My God, I'm very sorry, folks. Right, we let you go. The next video will tell you what actually happened. See you back soon. I think I've answered everything as best I can. Good luck and thanks.